Many organizations have captured the imagination of conspiracy theorists, political analysts, and investigative researchers alike. Among them, the Club of Rome stands out as one of the most enigmatic and controversial think tanks of the 20th and 21st centuries, founded in 1968 by Italian industrialist Aurelio Peccei and Scottish scientist Alexander King. The Club of Rome emerged with a seemingly noble mission: to address the world's most pressing global issues, including overpopulation, environmental degradation, economic instability, and resource depletion. However, over the years, critics and skeptics have alleged that behind its intellectual and scientific facade lies a more sinister agenda, one that involves global depopulation, the restructuring of society under a new world order, and the potential implementation of totalitarian policies to control human populations. The Club of Rome was established as a non-governmental organization, NGO, dedicated to addressing complex global problems through interdisciplinary research and policy recommendations. It positioned itself as a forward-thinking, progressive entity that sought to unite scientists, economists, business leaders, and politicians in pursuit of sustainable solutions for humanity's future. The organization's early initiatives were largely focused on the intersections of economic growth, environmental sustainability, and human well-being. However, the turning point for the Club of Rome's controversial reputation came in 1972 with the publication of its seminal report, The Limits to Growth. This study, funded by the Volkswagen Foundation and executed by a team of researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, employed computer models to analyze the potential consequences of unchecked population growth, industrial expansion, and resource consumption. The findings were alarming, predicting catastrophic environmental and economic collapse if humanity did not transition toward sustainable development. While many lauded the report as an essential warning, others perceived it as the foundation for a covert plan to regulate global population growth through restrictive and authoritarian means. One of the most persistent allegations against the Club of Rome is its supposed advocacy for global depopulation as a means of solving environmental and economic crises. Some critics have interpreted passages from The Limits to Growth and later reports as veiled endorsements of drastic population control measures, such as forced sterilization, restrictions on reproduction, and even engineered pandemics. While the Club of Rome has publicly denied any involvement in such strategies, its strong stance on overpopulation as a critical issue has fueled these speculations. A commonly cited document in these discussions is the 1991 publication, The First Global Revolution, which contained a controversial passage. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. But in designating these dangers as the enemy, we fall into the trap of mistaking symptoms for causes. The real enemy, then, is humanity itself. This statement, taken out of context, has been interpreted by some as an admission that environmental issues were deliberately framed as a pretext for implementing draconian control over human populations. Others argue that the passage merely reflects the club's perspective that global problems stem from human behavior and require systemic solutions. The term New World Order, NWO, has long been associated with elite globalist agendas that aim to establish a one-world government under centralized control. According to conspiracy theorists, the Club of Rome is one of several influential organizations, including the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, and the World Economic Forum, WEF, working behind the scenes to shape a future where national sovereignty is eroded in favor of a unified global administration. Proponents of this theory suggest that the Club of Rome's reports and policy proposals serve as intellectual blueprints for such a transformation. by presenting problems such as climate change, pandemics, and economic instability as existential threats. These organizations can justify the imposition of global governance structures, surveillance systems, and restrictive policies that curtail personal freedoms in the name of sustainability and security. Additionally, the United Nations Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 initiatives, which emphasize sustainable development, carbon neutrality, and social equity, have been linked to the Club of Rome's influence. Critics argue that these agendas contain hidden provisions that, if fully implemented, could lead to mass land confiscations, forced relocations, and a highly controlled digital economy where individual autonomy is severely limited. As technological advancements accelerate, concerns have grown that the Club of Rome and its affiliated organizations are leveraging digital innovations to implement a more controlled society. This includes digital IDs and biometric surveillance. Countries worldwide are adopting digital identity systems linked to biometric data, which some fear could be used to track and control individuals on an unprecedented scale. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. The push for cashless societies has sparked fears that global financial systems will become centralized, allowing governments to restrict transactions for those who do not comply with new policies. Climate lockdowns. As discussions of carbon footprints and climate responsibility intensify, some speculate that the next phase of global governance could involve periodic lockdowns to limit consumption and travel, justified by the need to combat climate change. Despite the accusations, supporters of the Club of Rome argue that it is merely a progressive think tank advocating for a sustainable future. Many of its members are respected scientists, economists, and policymakers who have no hidden agenda beyond ensuring the long-term survival of human civilization. Furthermore, the club has been transparent about its goals and has openly published its research, reports, and recommendations. Proponents dismiss conspiracy theories as misinterpretations or deliberate distortions of the club's work. They contend that addressing complex global issues requires coordinated international efforts, and that the club's influence is not a sign of malevolent intent, but rather an acknowledgement that many of today's problems transcend national borders. The Club of Rome remains one of the most polarizing organizations in contemporary discourse. To some, it represents a group of intellectuals and scientists committed to addressing humanity's greatest challenges. To others, it is a shadowy cabal working towards a dystopian future where the elite rule over a depopulated and tightly controlled world. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. While there is no definitive proof that the Club of Rome is actively orchestrating a new world order or engaging in secret depopulation efforts, its influence on global policy is undeniable. Whether this influence is for the greater good or a step toward a highly regulated and controlled society is a matter of interpretation, shaped by one's trust in global institutions and the narratives they promote. As the world grapples with pressing issues like climate change, pandemics, economic instability, and technological surveillance, the debate over the true intentions of organizations like the Club of Rome will undoubtedly persist, fueling discussions about the balance between sustainability and freedom in an increasingly interconnected world.